Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's January 21st, 2020. The show, as always, is presented by the Marijuana Times. Find us at marijuanatimes.org. Click the video tab there to find the show. A lot of great articles as well about the cannabis community, industry, and beyond. marijuanatimes.org. Today we're talking about legalization attempts for adult use in Arizona and in Missouri. And we'll talk about a rather enraging story out of Pennsylvania. All that coming up. But first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides grow safe and poison-free. With Natureside, don't use harmful chemicals or banned pesticides. Instead, in the state that you're growing, and use Natureside, nature-side.com, a proud sponsor of Cannabis News. Thank you, Natureside, for your continued awesomeness. This first story is by yours truly at marijuanatimes.org, taking a different approach to legalization in Arizona. Got the chance to talk with the executive director of NORML in Arizona, Michael Weiser. Basically, and according, this is the Smart and Safe Arizona initiative, and according to their website, it's a smart, safe, and responsible way. It legalizes the sale, possession, and consumption of 1 ounce of marijuana, of which 5 grams can be concentrate, for adults at least 21 years of age or older. Of course, the 21-year-old age limit, the 1 ounce possession limit, these are becoming standards in most attempts at adult use legalization around the country. So far, backers say they have collected over 150,000 signatures of the 237,000 plus that they will need by July 2nd. So they're well on their way. They're well funded. They have a lot of groups backing them. Not really a well-funded opposition has emerged yet, which is not to say that it couldn't. Michael told the Marijuana Times, he said, quote, "The big difference between 2016, when adult use legalization narrowly failed in Arizona, and now has been the campaign's approach to the public. In 2016, the aloof campaign not only disregarded and disrespected the concerns of the cannabis community, but also discouraged our involvement Arizona's medical marijuana community, thanks to social media and pre-med program trade networks, is extraordinarily interconnected. The urban backlash coalesced into a statewide no-vote movement that included both patients and non-patients. So far, the attitude of the medical marijuana community has been much more supportive. Also, a lot of rural outreach that didn't happen in 2016. Michael handles rural outreach and for the campaign in Arizona. He said in rural Arizona, the response has been phenomenal. Thus far, we've visited 43 rural communities since the final at the beginning of October and are on track to visit over 100 before we turn in signatures in June. So Arizona's going to be one of the states we're going to be looking at in 2020. If you think about it, obviously there's some cities in Arizona, Phoenix, Tucson, Scottsdale, places like that, but most of it is rural area, and there's a lot of land to cover, a lot of ground to cover, if you will. And right now it's looking good in Arizona, but it's a long way, as I pointed out in the article. There's a long way till November. A lot of things can happen. A well-funded opposition can come in at any time, really. Over $6 million was raised by the opposition in 2016, so it can definitely happen in Arizona. This next story would be the enraging one from Pennsylvania. A drop of cannabis oil could land this Pennsylvania woman in jail. The article points out the story was published in partnership with the Marshall Project, which is a nonprofit news organization covering the U.S. criminal justice system. And this first paragraph, I will warn you, is about as brutal as it gets. It really sets the tone for this entire story, which I would suggest you read. It's linked in the description of this video, as are all stories that I talk about within the video. They're linked in the description of said video. I would recommend you read all of them if you have time, but stories like this are really important because they go beyond stats and policy and things like that and show what happens to real people and what's happening to real people with these crazy laws that shouldn't exist in the first place. But this first paragraph, this is nuts. When Melissa Gass, a mother of 5 in central Pennsylvania, was 10, she was in a car crash and her head slammed into the windshield. Ever since, she suffered seizures, which occur with weekly and sometimes daily frequency and are life-threatening. When one is coming on, she feels a throbbing pain in the back left side of her brain. The next thing she knows, she's waking up outside with her face on the ground or in an intensive care unit at a hospital, often having urinated or defecated on herself. Someone Either a medical professional or a family member, if she's at home, has to inject diazepam gel into her rectum to keep her alive. That's one paragraph, the lead paragraph of this story. Obviously setting the stage for the rest of it because, as you can imagine, the woman that could land in jail is this woman. Medical marijuana has been legal in Pennsylvania since 2016, and Gas 42 obtained a doctor's certification for it last February, according to court records. She started taking a small amount, a dot of cannabis oil, and a spoonful of peanut butter 3 times a day, or a drop on her gums if she felt an attack coming on. And as you can imagine, you've seen a lot of these stories, the seizures all but stopped. She got her life back. She no longer self-medicated with benzodiazepines, sleeping pills, and alcohol, which are far more addictive and dangerous, especially when taken together. She was able to be a mom. The mom she wanted to be again. She was ready to go back to work at the nursing home where, before the seizures became too debilitating, she'd long been employed as a caretaker, she says. So she's getting her life back. She's getting her quality of life back. She can be a mom to her 5 kids. She can go back to the nursing home where she's helping people. Cannabis allows her to do all of this. So, as you can imagine, that's a no-no. September, her Lebanon County probation officer told her that due to a new court policy there, she had until the end of the month to stop using marijuana or else she might go to jail. She's on probation because back in 2016, she hit her husband of 20 years. According to court records, she does not remember the fight because at the time she was mixing drugs to ease her symptoms. She was arrested for simple assault. Her husband asked prosecutors not to press charges to no avail. He says the couple made up and remain together. So she's on probation for crime against someone who didn't want to press charges because he understood the situation and the type of the self-medicating she was doing with mixing pain pills and alcohol, and didn't want to press charges, and he's still with her, and that is what led to her being on probation. And now because of a law change in the probation, she's no longer allowed to use cannabis oil. As part of her ongoing court supervision, her probation officer informed her she would now have to get drug tested for marijuana, even though, of course, it's legal medically in Pennsylvania. That meant no cannabis oil, even though it is legal, and even though soon after she was forced to stop taking it, she had more than 20 seizures in 2 weeks, she says. Here's the thing. And I could go into the big long history of prohibition and all what it's caused, but the bottom line is this. This woman, whatever positive effects she gets from cannabis are irrelevant to everyone because it's none of their business. Everyone except her, the people she works with, her employers, her kids, those are the people that the positive effects are relevant to. And most importantly, they're most relevant to her. Her quality of life has improved dramatically on all fronts. But it doesn't affect anyone outside of the circle of people that she comes into contact with. And those effects are all positive. But it doesn't matter. Because even if there were no positive effects, her putting a drop of cannabis oil in some peanut butter and eating it in her house infringes on the rights of no one. I am dumbfounded. I am dumbfounded. There are still people in this world that think that their opinion of her putting cannabis oil in some peanut butter is valid. Not only is it valid, it should have the force of law behind it. That's nuts. If you think that, you are nuts. You are nuts. You have lost it. If you think your opinion on whether or not this woman puts cannabis oil in her peanut butter has any validity whatsoever, much less enough validity to rise to the level of whether or not it should be legal, that's crazy. You're crazy. Like I said, even if there weren't positive effects, and there are a ton. There are a ton. But it shouldn't matter. It's irrelevant to you and to the probation office and to the state of Pennsylvania and to the guys and the girls in the state legislature, the gals and the guys and the women, whatever. It's irrelevant to all of them. All of them. Anyway, Gass is now the lead plaintiff in a lawsuit by the ACLU of Pennsylvania challenging the court rule in Lebanon County that prohibits parolees and probationers who have a prescription for medical marijuana from using it. This is a county thing, by the way. There are other counties in Pennsylvania where this wouldn't be an issue if she lived there, like in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or whatever, but because she lives in this county, it's a problem. The organization says at least a half a dozen other counties statewide have a similar policy. Her lawyers are filing a brief with the state Supreme Court this month, and the case is expected to be argued this summer. So at the very least, she's fighting it legally, but it should go without saying that she shouldn't have to. She's a mom of 5 kids. That's what she should be doing. She has a job. She has a life. She's a life. She's a person with a life that doesn't affect you. She put some cannabis oil in her peanut butter. I can't think of anything more innocuous than that. How does that affect the probation office of Lebanon County? How does that affect anyone at all? How's anyone's business but hers? I don't know. We'll keep you up to date on that story as it unfolds this year. This next story is from marketrealist.com from Missouri. Missouri wants to legalize marijuana in 2020. Missouri will be another state we are looking at. They voted to legalize medical cannabis in 2018. The proposal, if it qualifies, will legalize possession and purchasing of 1 ounce of marijuana for individuals 21 years and older. The purchases will be made from licensed retailers. Also, residents will be able to grow up to 3 plants for personal use. John Payne, the campaign manager for Missourians for a New Approach, said there's widespread support among Missouri voters to regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana. The proposal also includes some amendments to the existing medical marijuana program in the state. There's a lot of time, obviously, between now and then. Missouri has a deadline until mid-May to gather 160,000 signatures to qualify for the November ballot. Also, other restrictions could appear. And like we saw in Florida, obviously it was on track for being on the ballot, regulate Florida, and then that fell through, and then make it legal Florida. On track to be on the ballot for 2020, looking good, and then that's gone, and they're fighting now for 2020, and they have court battles over language and just all kinds of stuff's going on. So a lot of time, but efforts underway in Missouri to legalize recreational cannabis. Missourians for a New Approach. If you're in Missouri, check them out, see if you want to be part of their efforts. Missouri, as I said, one of the many states will be tracking in 2020 when it comes to marijuana legalization, both adult use and improving legalization and medical marijuana legalization. All of it. We're here 5 days a week in Cannabis News, covering it for you. We're presented, as always, by the Marijuana Times. MarijuanaTimes.org is where you can find us. You can also search the Marijuana Times on YouTube and find the show. Almost 3,000 subscribers there. Thank you to Nature Side, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening today, and we'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.